Today, we are going to do some poses that I think you will need a towel, possibly a couple of blocks or a block. We're going to concentrate primarily on the hips, but in a forward fold, what I'd like you to do is get a towel, just any one of your gym towels, and maybe roll it up just slightly so that it has kind of a bump on it. And then you can sit with your sit bones right on the front so that you're kind of hanging forward. That will tilt your pelvis forward. So the first pose that we're going to get into is child's pose. So you can get into that by starting off on your knees like I am. I'm going to widen my mat. You have almost an infinite width mat, so your knees can go as far apart as they want. And bring your big toes together. And then come back and try to get your hips on your heels. They might not get there. And then just start to walk your hands forward until your head comes down. Now your head might reach the floor, might not. You can always use a towel underneath your forehead. And your arms, at least for this version of child's pose, I'd like your arms to be out in front. This will open up your shoulders. Take a deep cleansing breath into your nose. Exhale it out through your nose. And another inhale through your nose. Out through your nose. And let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. Those deep cleansing breaths instantly calm your nervous system, reduces your blood pressure, reduces your heart rate, and allows your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. That is the relaxation and sleep portion of your body. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. And that's what you need when you're playing any kind of sport. You need your muscles to be ready to go at an instant. Feel your belly rise and fall with your breath. This is opening up your hips, your groins, turning your femurs in your hip sockets. And also you're lengthening your spine. If you become really soft and comfortable here, maybe walk your hands out another ½ inch. And then soften back up. The goal today is to stretch into your pose, maybe 70% of the maximum, and then become still and let your muscles soften. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, rise back up into table. Get your hands beneath your shoulders, your knees beneath your hips. Then an inhale, drop your belly, draw your chest forward, lift your sit bones up and separate. And then on an exhale, curve your spine, your tailbone tucks, your chin comes towards your chest. Do a couple of those cat-cows. And every time you come into table pose, feel free to do cat-cows. Work your spine, work your shoulders and your hips all at once. The next time you come to center pause, the first pose we're going to do works on your hip flexors. Dragon used to be my least favorite pose. We'll lift your right foot up and back, step that heel on the back wall, really push that heel away so that you can feel that hamstring. And that leg should be roughly parallel to the floor. And then on an exhale, bring that right foot up next to your right fingers. Now you can have your hands on either side of that front leg or on the inside. I'm going to offer a couple of variations right away. And one is a stretch that will get all the way down to your Achilles and your calves. This has been a game changer for me because I do about 30 miles of walking every week, in addition to weight classes and hiking and yoga. But if you can bring your knee forward of your big toe just a little bit and keep your heel down, you can feel this stretch on the back of your ankle, on your calf, all the way down to your Achilles. This pose also is stretching your psoas, the major elevator muscle that allows you to lift your legs up or jump high. And your left leg is getting the same stretch, or the psoas is getting the same stretch, but without the bend. So your extension is on the left and the flexing is on the right. You can stay here, or if you'd like to modify this a little bit, bring both hands on the inside of your right leg and come down onto your elbows. Keep your foot on the mat, although you can walk that foot off to the right. My body's in the way of you seeing. I'll get up a little bit. You can walk that foot to the right to make it into a winged dragon, and just drop that right knee out to the side and coming up on the pinky toe side of your right foot. That will open up your other hip flexor, your iliacus, which is attached to the inside of your pelvic rim and runs down in front of your pelvis next to your pubic bone, and it ties into the top of your femur. We're not holding poses as long as we need to with my normal students who are just a couple of years older than you. Bring your hands back to the mat. Begin to walk your hands back until you can release your right foot to meet the left into table. Do a couple of cat-cows here. And the next pose that we're going to do is another one of my favorite poses. It works really well on your glutes. So inhale your left foot up and back. Again, push that wall away with that foot. And then bring your left knee behind your right knee, coming into shoelace. Now, bring your right leg off to the left and your left leg off to the right, but your knees are pretty much stacked. Then walk your hands back. Maybe you can come down onto your sit bones. I need to use a block. You might need to use a block, or maybe use a rolled up towel just to raise the floor up a tiny bit to make this pose a little more comfortable. Lift your chest high. To get a little bit of shoulder work in, take your right hand, your left hand. Take your left hand out to the right front corner of your mat. Then take your right elbow underneath. Bring your hands up, and maybe you can bring your hands together into eagle arms, palms to palms. If that doesn't work for you, that's okay. This is my good side. I can actually get a good portion of my palms together. But feel this stretch across your shoulders. Push your shoulder blades towards the front of the room. Inhale, and then on an exhale, begin to lower your shoulder blades. Not your elbows. Your elbows will follow your shoulder blades. Let them sink down. You might find that this tightens things up around your chest. You're getting great inward rotation on your shoulders, on your rotator cuff. And release, bring your arms out into T. Bring your hands together, palms interlace in front. Push your palms away. And inhale, raise your arms up towards the ceiling, opening up your shoulders. And then release your arms slowly, coming all the way down. Take your right arm up overhead and pat yourself on the back. And then take your left arm out to the side, bend that elbow, bring the back of your left hand and walk it up your spine. This is the side that I can normally get my fingers touching. Not much of a bind, but that's good. The other side, I missed by about 9 inches because of shoulder injuries. And then on your next exhale, release. Let your arms come down by your side. Shake out your hands. And then bring your hands in, your arms into robot arms. So your elbows are next to your ribs. Your hands are stretched out straight. Now pretend you're grabbing 2 baby birds and rock your shoulders forwards and backwards. This brings more synovial fluid into your shoulder sockets. Should feel pretty good. The next time you come to center, pause. The next pose is going to be a spinal twist. So to get out of this, maybe you can just lean back and let your legs come forward. If you were on a block or on a towel, remove that. And then push your heels away, your hands behind your hips, lift your chest high. You can gaze up if it doesn't bother your neck, or you can look at the horizon. But pushing your heels away, begin to rotate your feet from the left to the right, like they're just waving, like you're waving back to the Queen of England. And that is rotating your femurs and your hip sockets. And that should be a nice release. The next time you come to center, pause. Come down onto your elbows, all the way down onto your back. Raise your arms up towards the ceiling. Lower them down onto the mat beyond your head and stretch from your heels to your toes, from your fingernails to your toenails. Then return your hands next to your sides. Begin to walk your feet up towards your sit bones. Bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Maybe lift your sacrum a little bit and then push your hips away and rock from left to right. You're lengthening your spine and you're massaging the muscles alongside either part of your vertebrae. And the next time you come to center pause, bring your arms out into T. And on an exhale, lower your knees to the left. Your gaze can look over towards your right hand, as long as your neck is not objecting. If your knees aren't together, maybe you can just set your left hand on top of that right knee. And if your head needs a little more space, just move it an inch or so to the right. And feel this twist. It's opening up that right shoulder so you can feel the stretch all the way from your right forearm all the way down into your knees. Notice if you can detect where in your spine you're feeling this most. And then I'm going to ask you to do an experiment. And that experiment is to slowly push your knees towards the front of the mat. You don't have to go very far, but see if you can detect a change of where the twist is. You may be able to detect that it's down lower in your lumbar spine, your lower vertebrae. And then begin to bring those knees back up towards your arm, your left arm. And you may be able to feel this tightening in your chest as that twist moves. And you can put your knees wherever you want to feel this stretch. If you have part of your spine that bothers you, find that area and go right to it. The worst thing you can do about an injury is to avoid using it, using that body part. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your knees back to center. Give yourself a squeeze. Rock from left to right. Then cross your ankles and rock forwards and backwards and come all the way up into a seated pose. This next pose is caterpillar, which is kind of I'm not sure why it's called caterpillar, but it's a forward fold. So your legs are going to be outstretched in front of you. If you have really tight hamstrings like me, you'll never get your legs that straight, and that's okay. The target of this pose is both your hamstrings and your spine. So to start, I'm sitting up on a block or a towel, so my hips tilt forward. If your hips are tilted back, like if you slouched back and then tried to fold forward, you wouldn't be able to. So sit up straight. First, try to moon the person behind you. She won't care. And then walk your hands towards the front of the mat, drawing your collarbones towards your feet until there's resistance. And when there's resistance, pause there and just allow your spine to round and your head to come forward. And relax. There's no pulling on your feet or your ankles here. Gravity does all the work. And if you have an overwhelming urge to pull, just bring your hands up on top of your legs with your palms facing up like you're making an offering. Breathe into your lungs. Breathe into that area that is feeling the most amount of sensation. You can use your breath to get into this pose a little bit farther. And maybe first breathing into your kidneys, and then with successive breaths, breathe higher up until you get all the way up into your collarbones. Begin to deepen your breath again. On your next inhale, walk your hands back up. If you're on a toe or a block, remove it. Bring your hands behind your hips, and then bend your knees, put your footprints onto the mat. Now your feet can be wide or they can be narrow, or one out to the right and the other to the center. It really doesn't matter. And I'd like you to experiment. The more practice you get, the more experimentation you get, the more you learn your body. And the better steward you can be in taking care of your body. And the next time you come to center, pause. We're going back to dragon again. So roll over onto your right hip. Swing your legs around behind and come into table. Do a couple of cat-cows. The next time you come to center, pause. Lift your left leg up and back. Step on that back wall. And then bring your left foot alongside your left pinky. And if you want to try that overstep again, that's good. If not, just walk your right knee back an inch or so. And try to drop your hips to the mat. That is going to stretch your psoas more. You can use a block to support yourself to get you higher, or you can use a rolled up towel. I'm coming back to the overstepping of my ankle because I had a killer class with an instructor who was just gone wicked yesterday. So I need all this. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back. When you can release that left foot back to meet the right, do so. Come into table, do a couple of cat-cows, or maybe you want to curl your toes under, come up into downward facing dog. For me, every pose is an excuse to do another down dog. And then bring your knees down onto the mat. Walk your hands and knees off to the right side just a bit. Lift your right foot up and back, step on that back wall, and bring your right knee behind your left. We're coming into shoelace on the other side with your left leg on top. So I'll turn So maybe you can see this a little bit different. Try to get both sit bones with the same amount of weight. Lift your crown of your head up. And this time, take your right hand to the front left corner of the mat and take your left elbow underneath the right, coming into eagle arms again on the other side. And maybe this side is easier than the other, or maybe it's a lot more challenging. This pose is much more difficult for men than it is for women, both in the legs and in the arms, because your shoulders are narrower, so you get a little bit less space that you have to overlap for your arms. Your hips are a little bit wider, so that gives you a little bit more space to get your legs crossed. This pose targets your glutes. Your glutes are obviously the muscles that work in opposition to your hip flexors. They're the muscles that pull your legs back down. They're the ones that give you speed for running. And then exhale, release. Bring your arms all the way out wide. Spread your fingers wide. And bring your hands together again, palms together. This time, interlace your fingers the opposite way, the way you did not do before. Different thumb is on top. Now, supinate your hands, pushing your palms forward, and raise all the way up. And then lower your arms back down. On an inhale, take your left hand up towards the ceiling. Really reach high like you're trying to block a shot. And then pat yourself on the back. So your middle finger is right on your spine. Right arm goes out, thumb down. And then bend that elbow and try walking the back of your right hand up to meet the left. And if you can't reach, that's okay. You can grab your t-shirt. Now, an interesting thing about this pose is if you are rounding your spine, it's making this a much more challenging pose. By sitting up straight with a straight spine, you are reducing the space between your hands. On the exhale, release. Shake out your arms. Come to robot arms, hands pointed forwards. Grab your baby birds, and then just rock. The last pose that we have is spinal twist on the other side. So to get out of this, I hope you can just lean back, but if you have to come over your knees forward, that's okay. You'll catch up. Come down onto your mat, stretch your heels out in front. Bring your hands behind your hips. Come down to your elbows maybe this time. Push your heels away and rotate your feet. And when your feet are flexed, that tightens up your knees so your knees cannot twist. Your knees were not meant to twist. They're a two-directional joint. And then come all the way down onto your back. Raise your arms up overhead. Down onto the mat beyond your head. and stretch. Return your arms when you're ready. Bend your knees, walk your foot points to your sit bones. Give yourself another squeeze. This time, maybe you want to do some circles with your knees on the ceiling. And the next time you come to center, pause here. Bring your arms out into T for a spinal twist. And an exhale, lower your knees to the right. Gaze off to the left. Remember, you can use your right hand to help your left knee come down. And you may detect that when you do that, you put a little bit more tension on your quadratus lumbarum. Those are the same as your obliques, but on your back. They run from the top of your left hip, in this case, up to your ribs. And they're underneath your abdominals, your rectus abdominis. And try for yourself the different positions of your knees. And when you find the right place for you at this moment, just pause there. You may never get another chance where your body feels that way. So take advantage of your body at all times. Be kind to your body by allowing those strained muscles, the strained joints to gain release when they need it. Feel this stretch across your shoulders, where your left armpit is opened up. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, come back to center. Give yourself a squeeze. Rock from left to right. Or circles. And when you're ready, release your one leg out to the front of the mat, and then the other to the other side. Bring your hands down by your body or far out from your body. Doesn't matter, whatever feels comfortable to you. Walk your shoulder blades underneath your chest if that makes your chest feel a little bit more open. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose. And exhale it out through your nose. Take another in through your nose. Let it all out. And take rest. You may stay here longer. And if you'd like to end your Shavasana, bring movement to your fingers and your toes, your wrists and your ankles. Roll your head from left to right. Walk your footprints back up to your sit bones one last time. Draw your knees into your chest. Come over onto your right side. And using the strength in your left hand, push the mat away and rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your Yin Yoga practice with me this afternoon. Take the empathy and compassion that you show every time you step onto your mat. Take that with you, share it with your family, your friends, and each person you may meet. Namaste. My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga.